Hello everyone, this is Kalpana Pandit, and today I am honored to be in the presence of a gentleman who I completely adore, respect, and have the honor of calling him my uncle. He is Professor C V Sreekantan. He is my father's elder brother and the fifth son of my grandfather, illustrious Sri B.V. Pandit, who has created a legacy which is incomparable. And currently, I have the honor of interviewing my uncle, who has so many accomplishments that it's going to take me a while to even tell you all about that. He is currently, at the age of 91, the visiting professor of NIAS, which is the National Institute of Advanced Studies in Bangalore. He has been the director of the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research from 1975 to 1987 in Mumbai. He is the chairman of Sadvaidyashala Private Limited and also the Gandhi Center of Human Values. He's called the living legend of Indian science, and he has received several awards and honors, the highest among them being the Homi Bhabha Award, the C V Raman Award, and the Government of India has conferred him the third highest civilian honor, Padmabhushan. So it is my great privilege to introduce to all of you my dear uncle, Professor Sreekantan, who I affectionately and with great respect address as Pedappa. Welcome, Pedappa, and thank you for being with us.
I'm equally honored to be giving this interview to you. I consider it a great privilege, and also it is very happy for me to be called the uncle of a very accomplished lady in several fields, a doctor, a medical doctor, an actress, and a producer. So to carry on and talk about whatever questions she asks me, I would find it a great pleasure, and I can promise you that whatever I say is from my bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Pedappa. He always speaks from his heart, and that's one of his greatest qualities. He was born on 30th June 1925 in our ancestral town of Nanjangudu, and that was where my grandfather Sri B.V. Pandit and his 11 children created a legacy for all of us to follow and lead great lives with. And with Pedappa, it is my honor that he is able to tell us and give us some advice and his ideas about how life was, how life continues to be, and give advice and inspiration to youngsters. So first of all, Pedappa, what are your earliest memories of life in Nanjangudu in the illustrious family of Sri B.V. Pandit?
Well, my memory takes me back to almost the years when I was a child of 3 or 4 years. Somehow those memories have stayed with me even now, though many subsequent ones might have become obsolete somewhat from my memory. The thing that I remember most from those very early days is, of course, my old house where I was born, where I used to play, and my father's small factory at that time was at the back of the house, where he used to manufacture various types of medicines and tooth powder and so on. We used to play around in the yards of those factory place. And a little later, I started going to a school not very far from there, which about just a furlong or so. Those days also I remember. Then we moved to the extension in Nanjangudu, where our new house had been built, called Dhanvantari Vilas, and those memories, and a rather faint memory of my sister's marriage that took place in the Dhanvantari Vilas. Those things I remember still very well.
Thank you, Pedappa. So, coming to what the youngsters of today can learn from you, you are leading such a full, fruitful, illustrious, and yet wonderful life. And I know there are food habits, fitness habits, and life habits which I know we can learn from. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about what has been your food habits through the decades and what has kept you healthy so far?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, what exactly keeps you healthy. But let me tell you what I have done. And as I was telling Kalpana some time back, I have, in my life, I have not had any serious illness at all, particularly illness of the type fever, cough, cold, nor some of these malaria or typhoid, or none of those things I was spared from completely. And I don't know, though in the family and around we used to find many people sick, I found that I was all the time kept myself healthy. And something kept me healthy, I should say. I can't see, all through my life I have believed in being a little strict and I should say not free to eat anything and everything, but would always exercise some caution while eating food. And I never became an alcoholic. I never, those problems did not come to me at all at any part of my life. And I would say that, and I'm a strict vegetarian, though occasionally I had indulged in my youth in eating what you might call non-vegetarian food. For the last 30 years or 40 years I have not eaten any non-vegetarian food. Of course I do take eggs because that is good for health, and I take the regular South Indian style of food every day, which South Indian style of food is mostly some rice and some sambar and vegetables, all cooked, not fried, and mostly I would say my breakfast also, I would start with some eggs and then take some of the South Indian dishes for breakfast.
So in that case, did you ever deprive yourself of any treats that you would love to have?
No, you see, I did not want to give up anything, but I always used to eat in limited quantities. And also my habit was never to eat too much in one go. See, I would spread out the eating habit into 3 or 4 times a day because I would feel hungry after 2 or 3, 4 hours, so I would eat something light. But I would never stuff myself with too much food at one time, and that kept me free from serious troubles.
That's great advice. Thank you, Pedappa. So now coming to your fitness habits, I know you've traveled worldwide, you've been so busy with your career in astrophysics and traveling in conventions worldwide. How did you manage to stay fit all these years?
You see, I always observed very strict habits in terms. I was a good tennis player in the old days. I used to play tennis in the morning, get up early in the morning and then go to the tennis court and play for about 2 hours. That was till I was about 50 years. After that, I had to have a hernia operation when I gave up the habit of playing tennis, though the doctor said I could carry on. I did not do it. Afterwards, I have been all my life, till recently, when I became about 87 or 88, or 90 I should say, I used to walk for 1.5 hours, either in the morning or in the evening, whether it is in my own country or whether I am abroad, wherever I am. Walking is one thing which I very strictly observe as a routine. That, I think, has helped me quite a lot in keeping my body fit. And till recently, I did not have any problems of, connected with walking or with lying down, or you see the age-old problems. Now I have started getting some pains here and there, that is there. But normally people say that they get these kinds of aged pains and things like that around 65, 70. But I did not have any of those.
Wow, that's awesome. So, there are so many things I want to ask Pedappa about his incredible life so far. And let me start with asking, with all these travels, with all these accolades, with all these wonderful memories you have been part of and have created, what are your favorite memories in life so far?
It's not an easy question to answer because memories become part of your life. And whenever you try to recall old memories, you feel as if you have gone back to those days. And at the end of that, you feel sorry you have to leave those old days and advance in life. That's always the case with the problem with memory. Now, I don't know which particular aspect of memory of my life you would like me to talk about, because there are so many things. Do you want me to talk about in the field of science which I am doing, or in the field of sports which I was indulging in, or general activities, or what particular field?
Probably first, whatever stands out to you at this moment. What stands out to you in front of you as one of your greatest memories so far? One of them. I know there's several, but what just comes to life right in front of you?
See, whenever I think of old times, the first thing that comes to my mind is the influence that my grandmother had on me and on practically everybody in our house. She, as you know, you might know that, but the fact is that at the age of 12 or 13, she was married and she became pregnant. But unfortunately, before my father was born, her husband passed away. So, with a great deal of sorrow, great deal of difficulty, she brought up my father. And so when I think of, and later on, she brought him up and he became an Ayurvedic physician and then set up a factory and then became quite famous for many things. So we were quite comfortable in life later on. And my grandmother presided over the whole thing in the house. I can't remember a single thing in my early life on which she did not have an influence, both in terms of disciplining us, in terms of making sure that we do our education properly, and we observe all the habits that have to be inculcated in us, and so many things. So when I talk about my memory, the first person that comes to my life is my grandmother.
Wow. So she was obviously one of the strongest women that I can think of. I mean, I never had the privilege of knowing my great grandmother except through the memories of my uncles and my aunties and my family. But I hear that she was very strong, and to have single-handedly raised her son, that's a great memory, Pedappa. In the field of your foreign travels, what stands out to you as one of your greatest memories?
See, I traveled out for the first time in 1954. What thrilled me was first landing in Rome, and then going for about 3 days. I was in Rome, wandering around all kinds of places, visiting Vatican, many other, all those stand out in my memory. Then from Rome I flew to Paris, and that of course was another wonderful experience which always stands in my memory. Then I went to Geneva, and from there to one of the best places in the world which I can think of, a place called Interlaken, which is at the foothills of the famous snow mountains in Europe, Jungfraujoch. And I came down from there thrilled with, instead of, I don't know what I should say, I didn't want to leave that place at all. That was the kind of, I brought myself down somehow. And then I went to London. It so happened that I spent 14 days of my early life in London, very free. I had no commitments. So I just walked around London to all kinds of places, go to Piccadilly Circus by train, and then go here, there, etc. That was the most memorable occasion of my stay in London.
And in terms of family, like you have graced so many family functions and you have presided over so many family events. Which one of them stand out to you as something very, very special in your memory?
Well, the one that stands out in my memory very well is the marriage of my last sister, Padma. That marriage, the function went on for 9 days. The bridegroom's party arrived in Nanjangudu and then stayed on for 9 days, mainly because there were some intermediate days when certain functions could not be done. And also they were a very large family, so they could not go back and come. They were from Bengaluru. And I was also at that time grown up, so I remember very well that marriage occasion most.
And if I'm not mistaken, in Nanjangudu, in our grandfather's home, your father's home, there were constant music concerts and chanting and religious and spiritual functions and people coming and going all the time. And I understand it was a beautiful open house filled with happy people. Is that correct?
In fact, my father's house was characterized by the fact that in the morning at 6 o'clock, the main door of the house would be kept open, and the door would be closed only late at night at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And people would come and go, and for the afternoon food, there would be at least, we were a family of about 20, but there would be at least 10 or 12 guests from various places every day. It was a very different type of household, with a lot of relatives coming in, friends coming in, and also my brothers, they would come from their, they would have gone to study in Banaras or in Bengaluru or various, they would all come occasionally. So my early memories of Dhanvantri Vilas, where I was brought up, are filled with memories of people coming in and going, bidding goodbye to them, welcoming them.
Such a beautiful legacy of family, and I am so proud that I'm a part of this. There are so many incredible memories which I wish I could chronicle all of those, and this is the beginning where I have my Pedappa, giving us a first-hand account of life in Nanjangudu in his growing up years and onward. In sports, Pedappa, you mentioned sports. What is your favorite memory in the sports arena?
Yes, in the school I used to play cricket. I was a member of the school team. Later on, I used to play tennis. And I must say that there was a very nice tennis club in Nanjangudu, founded by my father. And he was himself a very good tennis player. And he also played tennis till the age of 60. And then, of course, I came to college and I used to represent college in some of the tennis matches and things like that. And the only game that I played essentially was tennis, not football, not cricket. Cricket I used to play very early in life, but not later on.
So now moving on from these beautiful memories, I want to ask Pedappa to help inspire youngsters of today as to how to get over difficult moments in life. Life today is so stressful, every day is difficult, there are so many challenges, and it is an inspiration to see someone like him who's accomplished so much and yet has this calm and peaceful spiritual demeanor. Not only that, he always seems to be in the moment. To everyone he meets, including me, he's always present, he's always here, he's always listening, and he's with us, he's talking. So to me, this is astounding. And let me ask Pedappa, what are some of the most difficult things you have encountered in life so far? And please give us some advice as to how we can surmount them, how we get through them.
The most difficult moments in my life were when I went abroad. My first visit to US was in 1953-54, and I did some of my best scientific work also during that period, but almost at the end of it, I suddenly started feeling giddy. I could not stand. I started kind of nervous. I became a kind of nervous wreck because I could not sleep, I could not walk comfortably and so on. At that time, I had to come back to India. That was a very sad moment because I was at the peak of my work when I had to give up whatever I was doing and come back to the country. After coming back to the country, I came and stayed in Bengaluru with my brother Ramaswamy's house for nearly 2 months, recovering from the kind of difficulties I had. And it was essentially because later on several people helped me to analyze. I was feeling homesick. I just got married and I left, and my wife was here in Bengaluru, and I was away in the United States in many places at that time. Somehow I felt very lonely, and I always felt that I should have come back here with my wife, but she could not come because she was still studying. So that 1 year after coming back here, it took some time for me to recover from that nervousness, I should say. And I overcame that essentially by concentrating on my work. I decided nothing should stop me from my work. So, of course, my wife joined me and we started our household in Bombay. And then I started a laboratory in Ooty, and I used to spend many days, sometimes many months in the Ooty laboratory doing experiments on cosmic rays. That put me back. So for those who have problems with, sudden weakness, sudden nervousness, etc., my experience is that the only way you can get over it is by concentrating on some particular aspect of your work, which gives me more confidence, which gives you more strength in your mind, that you can do something in spite of whatever handicap you may have.
Any other instances in life where you surmounted great difficulties, and can you tell us a few more principles apart from the precious ones you just told us as to how you got through it?
The second major difficulty I had, setback in my life, was again, I was in the United States for 2 years, 65, 67, a glorious period when I worked at MIT with some of my very great friends, and we achieved something positive at that time in the field of X-ray astronomy. And after coming back, by then we had a daughter who was about 10 years old, and she was very happy about the year he spent there, but she was insistent that we should go back to our country. Then it so happened that when we came back, within a few months, she fell down from a small height of 5 feet, and her head hit a granite slab, and she died instantaneously. That was a very big shock in our life. We had only one child at that time, and it was very difficult to overcome that setback. And it happened just before a marriage was to take place in my brother's family, and marriage had to be stopped, and we felt very unhappy that apart from our loss, there was no unhappy thing about the marriage itself and kind of thing. But then how did we recover from it? You may not believe me, what really happened was my wife's sister and her husband took us straight to Tirupati. And we had not gone to Tirupati till then, and we spent almost a week at Tirupati and visiting the Venkateshwara temple every day and praying for At that time, let me tell you, even though I'm a scientist and many may wonder, I myself wonder, a complete transformation took place in my life, and a kind of determination came in my life that yes, these things happen, and this is what you might call the law of life. There is nothing that can stop a person from dying any moment. It has happened, and so I reconciled myself, so also my wife, during those 7 days in Tirupati. Then we went for another 8 or 10 days we spent with her sister's house in Hyderabad, and on the 17th day we went back to Bombay, and on that day, on the day I landed in Bombay, I went to the institute, started my life in the usual way. I really wonder how I got that strength, that mental strength as well as physical strength to carry on from that time. And I was telling Kalpana that probably from that moment onwards, I don't remember a single day when I had any setback in life, in the sense that I did not have any fever or any kind of other, problems of diseases or problem of accepting, of course, the early, in very recent years after I crossed my 90, some usual old age problems.
I really thank you for sharing that, so that it will help people who have been through terrible tragedies to understand that it's important to continue living and trying to give our best in life. You did mention at that before this when we were speaking that you pretty much took it one day at a time. Would you tell us about that, as to when someone faces such terrible tragedies, as they go through each day, how do they go forward?
See, in life, you have got to plan in different ways. One is entirely for yourself. The other is to be able to complete the responsibility you have as a family member. The third thing is to fulfill your responsibilities as for the institution where you are serving. So I separated all these three, and then I decided, as far as I am concerned, the only way I can reconcile myself to this tragedy and to carry on further is to think in terms of living for that day. Next day will take care of itself. So in my personal life, I always have lived from that moment when my daughter died to till this day, that I don't plan beyond one day as far as myself is concerned. But this does not stop me from worrying about what is to be done as part of my duty, or whether I have to take care of others. I can't just say I will worry only about myself today. I have tried this and it has worked very well, and it has helped me to overcome many other difficulties also. You kind of worry about it, next day you forget it if you can.
Thank you, Padapa. What would be your advice in general to the youngsters of today? You have seen the decades changing as time goes on. Things have become more fast-paced and less spiritual in many ways, and more materialistic. So, what is your take on that? Do you think life should change and evolve as it is doing so, or do you feel things should be like the way they were? I would love to know your take on that.
I don't think it is possible for life to be the same as it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 100 years ago. Because of the changing environment, because of the changing facilities, changing technologies, changing weather patterns, so many things are different. So you can't go back in time and worry about or hope to be happier. But at the same time, you have to give due regard to the past in terms of what the people have achieved during those days with their limited resources. See, today a young boy or a young girl has plenty of opportunities to know things. In the old days, once a day a paper would come, some news would be carried of the immediate neighborhood and then of the country and the world. But most of it would be delayed by a few days. You would not, or sometimes even few months, because papers were not coming from other countries in less than 1 month or 2 months, because they had to come by sea. And so the lifestyles have changed quite a bit, timescales have changed quite a bit. So we had to take into, and also the new facilities in the way of web and information sources are enormous. And you see the effect of all this in the lives of younger people. You can see they are much more knowledgeable today, and they think, a lot of people have great original ideas. Kids are showing up that intelligence is not the prerogative of only senior people. They are capable of doing many things, and both in arts, in science, in I think in music. And see, I hear some of the Kannada songs on the TV every evening. It's amazing that children of the age of 8, 10 singing very beautifully, singly as well as in chorus. It's a pleasure to watch them. And you wonder, some programs really enthrall me nowadays. And so also, when I read about the younger people, very young people, achieving many new things, you see, and suggesting many new ideas, it's quite clear the effect of the environment has influenced the younger generation quite a lot. At the same time, as one should expect, there is also a lot of crime, there is a lot of other types of things happening. We should not, this is where education plays an extremely important role. So I think, the individuals should carry on and encourage youngsters as much as possible not to get trapped into, bad habits and bad. There's plenty of opportunity for that too, kind of a thing. But what is really amazing to me is the initiative and the great achievement that the small children are carrying on nowadays, practically in every country.
You just mentioned not to get trapped into distractions. What would be your best advice as to how not to get trapped? Because as you know, families are nuclear, youngsters are living on their own, there are so many distractions. In your experience, what do you think would be a good way to avoid getting into distractions of any kind?
Again, it's difficult to give any advice in this matter, but I think the responsibility of the elders is an important factor in this. They should give proper advice at the right time, prevent them from getting into bad habits and things. This can be done only by the members of the family and the friends and the relatives and so on. There is no solution. There is no other solution I can think of. At the same time, the youngsters, we must also examine why they fall into this habit. You see, the reason is, I find that poverty, particularly in our countries, poverty is greatly responsible for people going into bad habits, because for the sake of money, they are prepared to do anything. Both men and women and kind of children. It's all ultimately one of finance. Whether you have money on you or you don't have. That plays a very important role in determining the character of. And more importantly, of course, there should be more opportunity for education, particularly at the younger level, and then the necessary, schools and colleges and all that, they should be equipped with all the modern technologies from the point of view of laboratory facilities and then books and various kinds of things necessary for education. These are lacking in India. That's why I'm mentioning to you. This is not lacking in most of the Western countries. But there also, people do fall into bad habits.
Yeah, I was going to say
that is very true. That is because, at least I don't know, my observation may be superficial, but I find that is because the parents lose control of the children very early. The children develop an attitude of, becoming separate from the family at a very early age. Then they are guideless. That is the main problem, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, on the other hand, that there are so many extremely affluent youngsters in the Western world, in the Eastern world, who have kind of no direction in life, and that's pretty sad as well, because I feel that life is so precious, and having been blessed to come from a family which is so illustrious and so focused and disciplined and loving, I would love for the whole world to be that way. And that's one of the main reasons I am trying to have the honor of having Professor C V Sreekantan, my uncle, to give us insight into his principles in life, and he's doing so wonderfully well, and I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for doing this for us, and I look forward to sharing it with the world, and I hope all of you watch this and understand how a bright life is led. So thank you very much, Pedappa, once again.